And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Bill Maher is back, and this time he's sharper than ever, slicing through the politically correct rhetoric like it's second nature. He's always been fearless in calling out nonsense, but his latest target? None other than Whoopi Goldberg. With her series of eyebrow-raising comments since 2022, Whoopi practically set the stage for a showdown, and Bill Maher didn't hold back. Oh no, he didn't just throw a few insults her way. He meticulously dismantled her arguments, delivering a takedown so brutal it left Goldberg scrambling like a cartoon character, dodging falling anvils. So, what did Whoopi say that set him off? How did Bill's scathing retort leave her supporters reeling? Trust me, every sizzling detail is coming your way.
Finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Whoopi Goldberg lit the fuse, and now she's trapped in the explosive fallout of unapologetic truth. And believe me, it's a spectacle you do not want to miss.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You
his...
really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a
No,
sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
Whoopi's been at the center of a political storm for years, and Bill Maher isn't the type to shy away from confrontation. The tension between the two has been brewing, and this is where it all boils over. Remember when Maher went off on Sunny Hostin for twisting his words? Well, the atmosphere on The View has completely shifted. There's no more silence, no more safe space for covering up inconvenient truths. Whoopi jumped into the fray with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball, seemingly on a mission to settle the score, and she came in swinging with full force. But this wasn't just some casual brawl. No, this was Whoopi unleashing a verbal assault with the raw intensity of a reality TV star, looking to shut down anyone who dares to challenge her. Whoopi's argument was the same as always, a classic rip through the woke playbook, like it's her personal gospel. But when your arguments are sinking fast, you do what anyone would do. You start cobbling together flimsy straw men, hoping something will stick. And Bill Maher wasn't buying it. He laid it out clear as day. Black Americans are asking for real job opportunities, a booming economy, and accountable policing. Simple, right? But here comes Whoopi, taking us on some bizarre tangent about supporting a former prosecutor with grand plans for the working class. Did her narrative even hit home? Absolutely not. It's like watching someone blindly throwing darts at a dartboard, hoping one will hit the target. And, spoiler alert, nothing lands where it should. Maher didn't let her off the hook. He went in hard, calling her ideas rubbish, and completely shredded The View's usual script.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Let's face it, the show has become a political circus, with chaos and drama that are as disastrous as they are addictive. It's a mess you can't look away from. The View used to be a platform for lively debate, but with the likes of Whoopi and Sunny running the show, it's become a hotbed of wild, off-the-wall commentary that does more to stir the pot than actually engage in any kind of meaningful conversation. And let's not forget Charlemagne the God. When he walked onto The View, you could practically see the confusion on his face, as if he'd accidentally stumbled into an alternate dimension.
The criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time. And, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now.
It was like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But the real bombshell? President Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed guardian of the law, decided to pardon his son, Hunter, after he was convicted of corruption and other shady activities.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law.
Talk about a twist on family loyalty. This move was practically begging for outrage. How can you push for accountability when you're handing out get-out-of-jail-free cards to your own son? It's the very definition of hypocrisy. It's like saying justice is fair, unless you're a Biden. Hunter's crimes were as obvious as a toddler with chocolate smudges on their face. Yet somehow, accountability never made it onto the family agenda. Charlemagne didn't hold back either. He pointed out the glaring hypocrisy in the woke crowd, calling them out for preaching justice for all, yet allowing those within their own ranks to get away with anything. But Whoopi didn't care. She continued to spin her web of absurdity.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground. They don't have to do.
She insisted that Biden was right when he declared, "No one is above the law." Seriously, Whoopi, how can you make such an obviously false claim when there's overwhelming evidence to the contrary? Watching her attempt to twist the truth was like watching someone deny that the sky is blue on a perfectly clear day. Her logic was so twisted, it could have been an Olympic event. If only she didn't trip over her own reasoning every other second. Charlemagne, stunned by her outlandish claims, had nothing left to say. But Whoopi didn't stop there. Oh no, she had more to add. She went on to suggest that Biden reversed his stance simply because he was tired of being taken advantage of. Charlemagne, now completely speechless, couldn't believe the irony. The woke crowd loves to condemn anyone who makes a misstep, unless that person is part of their own elite circle. When someone outside their ranks messes up, the condemnation is swift and unforgiving, but when one of their own falters, suddenly it's all about excuses and selective memory. Whoopi and her crew might have gotten away with it during Charlemagne's time on the show, but the moment Bill Maher caught wind of their shenanigans, he came out swinging, and he didn't hold back. Maher's takedown was brutal and unrelenting. He tore apart the so-called woke mob, exposing their hypocrisy for the world to see. These people love to claim they are the embodiment of truth and justice, but when it comes to their own, the rules suddenly change. Just look at Hunter Biden. His guilt was obvious, yet his father's position in the Oval Office gave him a free pass. If anyone else had done what Hunter did, the mob would have been calling for justice, and fast. But when it's one of their own, favoritism trumps fairness every time. Maher wasn't shy about calling it what it was: pure hypocrisy. He laid it all out in black and white, and it was clear as day. The burning question is, how much longer will Americans tolerate this kind of double standard? It's not just about Hunter Biden. It's about a system that bends over backward for the powerful, while the rest of us are left to fend for ourselves. Maher's brutal retort wasn't just timely. It was a wake-up call for everyone still clinging to the illusion of impartial justice. And here's the kicker.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit.
Maher pointed out that this so-called woke faction is being propped up by mainstream media, further fueling the double standards they claim to oppose. The media worked overtime to downplay the Hunter Biden scandal, labeling it as Russian propaganda and dismissing any dissenting voices that dared to speak out.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I mean,
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg eagerly joined the chorus, dismissing the entire scandal without a second thought. But Bill Maher wasn't about to let her off the hook. He went straight for her, accusing her of deflecting the real issues and systematically tearing apart her excuses. He exposed the stark hypocrisy for everyone to see. And it was a sight to behold. Maher's takedown wasn't just a shot across the bow. It was a full-on assault on the hypocrisy of Whoopi and her ilk. Watching him dismantle their flimsy arguments was like witnessing a modern-day Picasso at work, using biting sarcasm and sharp logic as his masterful strokes. He wasn't just calling out their double standards, he was shining a spotlight on the very core of their hypocrisy. And he wasn't about to let them off easy. As Bill Maher continued to hammer home his points, it became clear. This wasn't just a political debate. This was a battle for the soul of the American public discourse. Bill wasn't content with simply taking down Whoopi. He was on a mission to expose the deep hypocrisy of the woke left and their unchecked power. And Maher didn't stop at just ripping apart their flawed arguments. He dismantled their entire narrative. The more Whoopi tried to defend the indefensible, the more she looked like a deer caught in the headlights, struggling to keep up as Maher tore through her defenses with surgical precision. Bill Maher wasn't shy about pointing out the glaring double standards that seemed to be a hallmark of the woke movement.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
These people claim to champion justice and accountability for all. But when it comes to their own, suddenly the rules are flexible. This was a line that Maher had drawn in the sand, and he wasn't about to let Whoopi or anyone else erase it. Whether it was the hypocrisy surrounding Hunter Biden's pardon or the broader issue of selective accountability, Maher wasn't having it. He called out the double standards of the woke crowd in a way that left even the most die-hard liberals struggling for a comeback. But it wasn't just about Hunter Biden or Whoopi Goldberg's latest commentary. Bill Maher was using this moment to address a much larger issue, an issue that's been simmering beneath the surface of American politics for years. It's the growing gap between what the woke left preaches and the reality of their actions. They've painted themselves as the righteous defenders of justice, equality, and truth. But when you pull back the curtain, you see a group of people who are just as guilty of hypocrisy and manipulation as those they claim to oppose. And Maher was shining a spotlight on it like never before. Whoopi tried to deflect, but it was clear that she wasn't prepared for the kind of raw, unfiltered truth that Maher was delivering. She was scrambling, trying to pull together flimsy defenses, but it wasn't working. Bill Maher wasn't buying any of it. He wasn't just calling out her weak arguments, he was exposing the entire woke ideology for what it is. An ideology built on selective outrage, double standards, and a disregard for true accountability. It was a message that hit hard, and it left Whoopi and her supporters reeling. But the controversy didn't stop there. Bill Maher wasn't just making a political statement, he was calling out the very fabric of the media establishment. In Maher's eyes, the mainstream media has become complicit in this double standard, doing everything they can to shield the powerful from the consequences of their actions, while simultaneously piling on anyone who dares to challenge their narrative. Maher wasn't going to let the media off the hook either. He pointed out how the media had downplayed the Hunter Biden scandal, labeling it as Russian propaganda, and dismissing any evidence that didn't fit their narrative. While the media worked overtime to protect Biden and bury the truth, Maher was using his platform to expose the lies and the hypocrisy for all to see. This was a moment of reckoning, not just for Whoopi Goldberg, but for the entire media apparatus and the political elite. Bill Maher wasn't just pushing back against one woman's flawed arguments. He was fighting against an entire system that bends over backwards for the powerful while leaving the rest of the country to fend for itself. His words were a wake-up call for anyone still clinging to the illusion of impartial justice.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
Maher's blistering retort wasn't just timely. It was a challenge to the status quo, a challenge to the establishment that has been allowed to run unchecked for far too long. As Maher continued his takedown, he hit a nerve that had been left untouched for far too long: the hypocrisy of the so-called progressive left. These people claim to be the moral high ground, the defenders of truth and justice. Yet when the truth doesn't fit their narrative, they are quick to suppress it, dismiss it, or outright lie about it. Bill Maher wasn't just calling them out for their hypocrisy. He was calling out their entire way of thinking. He was showing the world that the woke crowd doesn't care about accountability. They only care about controlling the narrative, silencing dissent, and maintaining their power. And here's where the real scandal lies. Bill Maher wasn't just calling out Whoopi and her crew for their hypocrisy. He was calling out the entire media industrial complex that enables this kind of behavior. The mainstream media, in Maher's eyes, is just as guilty as the people they're protecting. They work tirelessly to maintain the status quo, to bury the truth, and to cover for the powerful while vilifying anyone who dares to speak out. Maher was using his platform to shine a light on the very system that allows this kind of hypocrisy to thrive. He wasn't just calling out Whoopi. He was calling out the entire establishment. As the battle between Maher and Whoopi raged on, it became clear that this wasn't just a political clash, it was a cultural war. On one side, you had Bill Maher, unapologetically fighting for the truth, no matter who it offended. On the other side, you had Whoopi Goldberg, clinging to her narrative, desperately trying to maintain the illusion of righteousness. But Maher wasn't buying it. He wasn't interested in playing by the rules of the woke crowd. He was more interested in exposing the truth.
I said there's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
No matter how uncomfortable it made people feel. In the end, Maher's takedown of Whoopi Goldberg was a perfect example of how politics and culture have become entangled in a toxic mix of hypocrisy, manipulation, and media spin. Whoopi tried to defend the indefensible, but Bill Maher tore through her arguments like a hot knife through butter. The mainstream media may have tried to protect her, but Maher wasn't about to let them get away with it. His words were a clarion call to anyone who still believes in truth, accountability, and the rule of law. It's a fight that's far from over, and if Maher has anything to say about it, the battle is just getting started. And there's the kicker. Bill Maher didn't just expose the hypocrisy of Whoopi Goldberg, he exposed the hypocrisy of the entire political and media elite. Whoopi's desperate attempts to protect her narrative are just a small part of the much larger problem. Maher wasn't just calling out one woman. He was calling out an entire system that's broken, corrupt, and willing to sacrifice truth for power. The fallout from this showdown? It's just beginning. Stay tuned. Bill Maher's next move could very well change everything. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, so hit that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and please make sure to check out these other videos you might like. See you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.